put the powder in the glass. Pour an alcoholic beverage of your choice. I prefer whiskey. I also like to add a little bit of hot dog water to mine. It's just personal. Find a nice sedentary position. Relax. And stay there. Couch body.
All right, hello and welcome to Lunch Therapy, Interview Friday. This is a show that happens on Tuesdays and Fridays at noon. Fridays we do an interview. Todd Lee is here. Hoy, great to have you here, Todd. We've got a great interview today. We've got Don Schechter, who is an author and a filmmaker and a futurist. I'm going to call him a futurist. He's a science fiction writer and just a really great guy. So we're having him here today, luckily for us. And I want to say thank you to all the Patreons. Todd Lee is one of them, Pam Palmieri, Neil Phillips Sethward, Jason Edelman, Daniel Muchler, who plays the contest on Tuesday and often wins, and Mary Marks. Todd says, whoa, new do. Yeah, I got some bangs. I got myself some bangs. Or did you forget your conditioner? No. You know, always improving on the product out here at Lunch Therapy. Always trying to make things 1% better. Thanks everybody for joining us. Behind us, we have a river in Thailand in slow motion given to us by Super Jeff Lohman, one of our major contributors to the show. This show is fueled by Patreon, patreon.com/Joel Marshall. Go there to contribute to the show. You can go there and you can give us $5 a month if you want, or you can give us $50 a month or $50,000 a month. River runs through my hair, just like the movie. All right, let's breathe. I need to breathe. On this show, we breathe. Bangarang. Yeah. All right, in through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. Let it go. It's been hard to breathe lately, yeah. On this show, we say we take a break from the crap, but lately we're saying take a break from the cruel. So much cruelty going on in the world. In through the nose, out through the toes. And sometimes you need to take a break and breathe. Let it go. Don's book that is forthcoming is called Ascendants, and it's about a sort of a futuristic society where they have, I don't know if I'm giving too much away, but they have discovered what happens after you die. In through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. Let it go. And I don't know enough to spoil anything, but it seems as though it's been corporatized. Your afterlife has been now in the control of some other, I don't know, institution. Sometimes it feels like our lives are being controlled by institutions that maybe are not acting in our best interest. I don't know. That's why we write novels like this one, in through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. Let it go. Often that is to show us maybe down the road, if we continue down a certain road, where we might end up, and the battles we might have to fight, that maybe we should not have to. All right, let's get on with the show. We like to keep our minds right on the show. Sometimes that includes watching a giraffe eat lettuce at the Oregon Zoo. This is a beautiful giraffe at the Oregon Zoo up there in the great state of Oregon, as some people say. We want to keep our feet firmly planted in reality and our minds in the clouds of fantasy today. So this is the grounding part of the show. I hope he doesn't eat my head. That would be that would really kind of put a damper on the show. I don't think they eat people, though. Anyway, let's get into this thing. This is the Interview Friday. We have interesting people every Friday at noon. Today is no exception. We are going to get into this interview with Don Schechter. Don Schechter is the author of the forthcoming novel, Ascendants, which is a sci-fi thriller that explores the intersection of humanity and technology. This story Don describes as one that's been chasing him for years, and it serves as the cornerstone of a multi-platform universe that he's creating. The first book will be released on March 24th, and you can pre-order it. There's a link in the show notes. He is also, sometimes he says he's doing things backwards, he's also the creator of the Ascendants anthology, which is a series of short films that he wrote and directed around this same universe that he's creating. And the film project has earned critical acclaim on the international festival circuit at screening at Holly Shorts, the Philip K. Dick Film Festival, Boston Comic-Con, won Best Director, Best Horror Science Fiction TV Series at the NYCIFF Fright Fest, and at the Boston International Film Festival it won Best Sci-Fi. So we've got some clips from those today as well. Don is also the founder of and CEO of Charles River Media. I don't know who this Charles River guy is, but he's getting all the credit. A Boston area media production company that spans television, film, live event work, cutting-edge content creation. So he's also a media creator. And he's also a teacher, professor at Tufts University, part-time professor. So he's teaching other people how to do what he does. And there's a great TED Talk that you might want to check out that he does, where he talks about imposter syndrome, which is kind of cool because a lot of us have imposter syndrome, especially in this world where we're doing so many different things. We're like, who am I? Am I a filmmaker? Am I a writer? Am I a content creator? What the hell? Or am I nothing? Am I nothing? So this is a really good TED Talk that gets you to kind of understand how you create your own narrative about your life. So without further ado, let's get into this thing. Let's see what Todd says. Remember, we are all given, all we are given via media, etc. is negative. If it bleeds, it leads. There is so much more positive out there that never gets seen. Be good to others. I like that, Todd. I like that a lot. I love that. That's going to be a good springboard for this interview.
Into that darkness peering, long I stood there. In times of war, in times of need, we looked to the heavens and prayed. We were believers. We had faith. But then we saw the light of truth, the light of science, the light of ascension. It was proof of the life to come. Centuries of dogmas and doctrines fell. We came together in a world where a glimpse into the afterlife made us content, made us safe. But in the years to follow, we fell apart. The afterlife was denied to many, our blood impure, our genetic code invalid, and we fell into chaos and darkness.
Wow, that is some interesting stuff. Yeah, so welcome to Lunch Therapy, Don
Thank you so much.
Schechter.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
great to have you here.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Oh my God. So what we were just watching there, was that the beginning of one of your short films in your
Yeah.
anthology?
So what happened was, it's a very long story, but that was the opening to the first 3 short films that we packaged together called the Ascendants anthology. So that was the opening credits for those.
Oh my God. And that actor, Johnny Lee Davenport, is that who that is?
That is Johnny Lee Davenport. He's was an amazing actor and a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
And he had such a powerful voice. And he's actually, I'm going to go right to it. He actually is who I dedicate the book to.
Yes.
He passed away in 2020, sadly. And he was just like the most amazing actor. You know, he was all over theater. Everyone in this neck of the woods knew him. He was in, The Fugitive even, and Joy, and did such an amazing job in all that. And what happened is that I was working on the very first Ascendant short film, and I needed someone to come in for one day to our studio to do something. And he was recommended. He came in, he did it, and he was this amazing man who I was like, I couldn't believe his presence. And he was so sweet and so nice and had such a deep voice that I was like, I want to know this guy for real, and I want to make my next film just to hear him speak.
Yeah.
And so when we came time to do the second one, I wrote it for him, and his character and his voice is all over in this book, and the book was dedicated to him.
Wow.
So yeah, he was an amazing man.
I knew about him because I was at Shakespeare and Company in Massachusetts there.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Many, many years ago. And then also I was at Steppenwolf Theater where he also was there. So just an amazing actor. Too bad that he's gone now, but at least, you got him in those films that you did. So what an amazing thing.
Yeah, he was an amazing man, yeah.
So you say somewhere that you kind of are doing things backwards.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about this journey and where you kind of started to come up with the idea for this sci-fi series?
Sure. How many hours do we have?
I know,
It's
we've
been,
only got an
a couple
hour.
decades of work here.
But I want to hear about it because it's
I'll
really
give the
interesting.
short, long version of it.
Because a lot of us have ideas, but to make them manifest in the way that you're manifesting them, I'd love to hear the kind of path.
Yeah, so I definitely did everything backwards for sure. So what happened was one day I was working, I was young, I was in my early 20s, and I was like, I was thinking of stories maybe that I want to tell one day, and I had this idea of a scene, and it came to my mind, and I just saw it. And it's a scene, there wasn't much to it. It was between a husband and a wife. The husband's doting on his wife, and she's very sick in bed and she's dying. But what stuck with me is that she's dying, but he's saying, you just got to hold on to, back then, your 30th birthday, and then it'll be fine. We'll be together in death. And I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And so, and I'm not, a particularly religious person, and there was a lot of things going on in the world in the early 2000s, chaos in the world, as always, relating to religion and wars. And so, once I visualized that scene, I was like, well, what does that mean? And what would that world be, where if you held on to your 30th birthday, in that case, what would be the science behind it? And I was like, I want to tell a story where religion has been replaced by scientific certainty. And then that's sort of where the ideas started to come out. And then I just spent years thinking about, well, what's the science? What's the world like? Now, at the time, I had the idea for it. I wrote a script, a feature film script. I'm like, I'm 25 years old.
Oh, really?
I'll do a
You
feature
just went
film.
out and wrote the script.
Yeah, just go ahead, write the script.
Yeah.
I had a little training, but not a ton. I had a master's degree in music, so I don't know what I'm doing here. And I wrote the script and figured, I had a lot of colleagues who would work on each other's films. Let's go do it.
Yeah.
So maybe a year or two goes by, and I looked at the script, and I'm like, I don't have $80 million to make this film.
Yeah.
And so back then, if you had a script that you wanted to get maybe looked at from Hollywood, you would make a rip reel where you take trailers from different films, put them together, package it up and say, hey, this is the kind of movie I want to make. Look at my script.
Yeah.
But I was a snotty little 25-year-old said, no, I'll do something myself. I'll make some short film and use that for the trailer.
Yeah.
Well, now the short version of the story is I made the first film. It did well. It was like a 20, 30-minute short. Said, this was fun, but now we know what we're doing. Let's make another one with Johnny Lee. So we made a bigger one. And then we said, okay, and then a year goes by. Oh, while we're finishing post-production on that one, let's do a shorter one and put it all together. And so that was the first Ascendants anthology, but now 5 years may have passed or more. The timeline gets really fuzzy.
Yeah.
And I had this piece, and then I started showing it at festivals. We got grants to do a fourth one, which was a prequel. And throughout that time, leading up to COVID era, it was getting some steam. It was getting some interest. I had some interesting phone calls and meetings. And then COVID hit, and everything just stopped.
Everybody
and all
has that
like,
story, which then
everyone
COVID
has
hit.
that story.
It's terrible.
And then COVID hit, and everybody disappeared.
Yeah.
But what I realized is that, like, especially the weeks prior to COVID shutting everything down, the feedback I was getting from other producers or some networks is, oh, if you had a book, this would be so much easier for us to go.
Really?
Yeah, just
Why
have
is
the book
that?
and buy the IP. Because people didn't want to read scripts anymore. When I was younger and in college, people would read unsolicited scripts.
Yeah.
And then the industry changed, and they just wanted to buy the IP of a novel.
But they don't want to. Do they read the novel? Who knows?
They don't. Well, I don't know.
Oh, who knows?
So they want the now, and of course now it's probably too late, and people want to just have your TikTok following of 5 million people and do something with you there. So that's a whole other thing. So once COVID hit, it's like, okay, I've been told I should, even though I had the script and I had like these proof of concept films.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we love the idea, just put into a novel. So that was 2020, and here we are at the beginning of 2026, and the publishing date is it's being dropped on March 24th. And the novel is the story that I've always wanted to tell, but it's gone all this. So like all the short films that we did, they take place in the mythology of the world of Ascendants. They take place in little points in history in this series that I want to create, but this book is the story that I think is worth telling.
A lot of times people talk about this kind of writing as world building.
Yeah.
Do you find that making the short films and writing and also writing the script has enabled you to kind of wrap your head around this world in a bit easier way or better way?
I don't know if it's easier because it's taken
No,
15
not easier.
years.
Easier
But
is
yes,
wrong.
I mean, definitely for me, like I never grew up wanting, I always wanted to have a book when I was younger, but that was not something I did in college or thought about being an author. But nobody was going to tell this story but me.
Yeah.
So for me, when I went to the short films, that helped develop certain ideas and helped me sort of visualize what I wanted to say in this book. And so the story went through, 87 drafts and a ton of work, but especially working on the films helped visualize as I was writing this book and making a million edits, what it is that this would look like. It showed me where I wanted to go.
Would you say that you're a more visual person? Because like sometimes trying to get something out of your head, like you had that vision of that one scene that inspired this. And I don't know, it sounds a little like Logan's Run, you reach 30 and then they blow you up or whatever.
I'm sure I was influenced by Logan's Run.
Influenced by Logan's Run. All of us were.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But is it easier to envision things, or how do you control like your imagination, or do you cultivate your imagination in some way so that you can visualize things?
It's an interesting question. I think for a lot of people, they would have a very different answer. I think for me, because my background the last 20 years has been in film and television and that, it's a very collaborative process. And like, if you get a script or write a script, what that is very different than what you make. Because things happen when you're producing something, actors change, the way they look, it's very different than what's on the page. So you have to be very okay with your vision, if you're a screenwriter or storyteller on paper, to be completely different when you go and implement it.
Do you think that's why they're more interested in a book? Because a book is not the finished screenplay. And so maybe you're not going to be as in control of what they make out of it if it's inspired by the book.
It's not going to be competitive. They can say, okay, we'll give this to a writer we know, go make the screenplay version of this.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that. My screenplay, I don't know that I'll let anyone ever see it for it.
Do you think that, so is it a series? Is it like, do you think it'll be like a streaming series?
That's where it should live. I mean, I don't know, who knows if someone sees this and then says, great, let's go option that and make
Yeah.
a show. That's where I think the style of it would fit on a streaming platform. I think, who am I to say anything like Apple TV, but like, Handmaid's Tale, Foundation, like these are shows that belong on streaming platform.
Yeah.
I think that this
And
is
it also
the same
can,
field.
they can explore the world through character, which seems like what you're doing. I haven't read the entire book because I just got it yesterday, but
I gave it to you yesterday.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. I'm a kind of a slow reader and I had to work, but I noticed that it's very character driven.
Yes.
And it also is very suspense driven as far as like it reveals things to you through character interaction.
Yeah.
And so I find that I think this is probably the most interesting thing for me to watch as far as science fiction goes, is if the characters can have a small story happening in a big world. And you just get a glimpse of that, and that pulls you along much more than trying to explain the whole thing in a bigger way that's not character driven. Like I think of Blade Runner, small love story in a big world.
In a big world, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's what we as people are drawn to, right? It's stories about people who are interesting, but like people who live ordinary lives, who are sort of drawn into these like impossible situations. Whether it's there's a series of a group of characters in the book. It follows these stories that these characters whose lives get intertwined together. But it's one of them is this family. It's a mom and her two daughters. And they get, she's a doctor, and one's in school, and one's a, rebellious 20-year-old, and they get caught up in this world through no fault of their own, really. Yeah. And they're just trying to live their lives. And it's just, I think the best stories are the ones where the reader, the watcher can relate to a character in that book and be like, wow, how would I survive in that world?
Yeah, it seems like a very difficult world. Now, do you think your job as a science fiction writer is to help shape the world by saying, like, this is what the future might look like? Let's take a look at what we're doing now. Do you think you're being, you have a duty of some sort?
As a writer, do I have no. I mean, I think people have a duty to entertain people or make them think.
Yeah.
I do think what I've sort of realized over the years of doing this is that there's sort of been three eras of science fiction since the 90s. So hang tight with me for a second, because I don't want to be too long here.
I want to hear about this.
So what I'm really interested in, and I'm doing some research on as well, think about the 90s and what we watched in the 90s, all right?
Yeah.
I'm a Gen Xer, end of Gen Xer, so you can place me, figure out how old I am. But we were all freaked out about Y2K. The world's going to end, planes are going to fall out of the skies, the computers are going to...
Remember that?
It was crazy. Like and the clocks are going to blow up and all this stuff. Like nobody knew. The system was just going to break. Yeah. And what were we watching? We were watching X-Files, right? Paranoia, Millennium, all these like conspiracy things.
Yeah.
One of my favorite movies that came out around then that I think that was very influential to this book was Strange Days. If you saw Strange Days.
I did not see that, but I remember it.
Oh my God, I love this movie. It's also like turn of the century, New Year's Eve kind of technological.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Ascendants in that movie, or a lot of Strange Days in Ascendants. But there was all this angst and anxiety about the turn of the century, right? So then Y2K, we survived Y2K. It's the 2000s.
Somehow.
We're like, we did it.
Somehow we survived.
Exactly. Somehow we survived.
Yeah.
So that was sort of era one in this time frame I'm talking about. But then 2000, it was like, okay, things are just kind of like moving along, right?
Yeah.
And the example I like to give is Star Trek Enterprise. Or again, obviously I'm a big sci-fi nerd. Star Trek Enterprise was coming out, in 2001, and it was this like look back at nostalgia of like how we got here. But that show came out, I think, 2 weeks or so after 9/11, and that society was not in the mood for nostalgia, right? Post Y2K, right?
Yeah.
We were attacked. I'm originally from New York City. I was up here in Massachusetts, but we were attacked. So then we get the second sort of pivot where sci-fi was about the catastrophe isn't coming, the catastrophe's here.
Yeah.
And we also got around that time like Armageddon and things like that, but I don't know if you saw Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
The original, but the new one was so successful because it's about society has been destroyed and there's only a few of us left. What do we do?
Yeah.
And do the ends justify the means? Or like Popular, like 24, right? It was so violent,
Yeah.
and it was all about the ends justify the means. There were shows like Jericho and eventually The Walking Dead. This was all about we're in a lot of trouble. The catastrophe's here. We have to survive it. So that was sort of part two. Then it sort of flipped to religion, and this is where Ascendants started to really be kind of coming together with me, where science fiction books, television, film, all this started to rely on religion as the answer to their stories, if that makes sense. So like, think about Lost, right? The end of Lost was like, it wasn't a science fiction thing.
It was still mad about
exactly, you're still mad. The end of Battlestar Galactica, even though religion was throughout it, people didn't expect it to have such a religious bite at the end. So stories were looking for religion to explain why things were science fiction.
Interesting.
And I didn't really like that so much. I wanted, if I'm going to watch a sci-fi show, I want it to be science. It might be fantastical, and it might be aliens or some technology, but I want it to live in that world. I equate it to like if you were watching Harry Potter for 7 movies or whatever, and at the last act, all of a sudden aliens came from outer space and was blowing up Hogwarts. Right? I don't want to see that. Right? I mean,
I don't want to see it either. Maybe
yeah.
I do. Maybe I do want to see it.
So this is a long story, but basically that's when Ascendants was like really gelling with me about, okay, I want to show, I'm kind of not loving all this like religious rationale for these stories. What is the reverse? And so I want to do a story about extreme ideology, but poured it onto science fiction. And so the conclusion is where I think we are now. And your question was about what's our responsibility or something like that.
About our trajectory as a society.
Our trajectory. So I think we're clearly, and we can go down another rabbit hole talking about the singularity in technology, but where stories should be going and are going to go is now this next step, which is about, it's not about the system breaking down, it's about distrust of the system. With AI and technology, we don't know what's real, who's in charge of what we're knowing is real or not. I mean, there's the whole TikTok and media debate about who's controlling truth and who's not just controlling it, but who's manufacturing it, and knowledge is synthesized. So this book, lives in that world, and I think that's where, it's interesting when authors and creators are now telling stories that are allow us to talk about that world.
It also
we're approaching.
Seems like the world that we're approaching is a world where science is getting an injection of, it's like science on steroids. And it's like, how do we control this thing? And do we as a society have a choice, or is it all being made by a few people in Silicon Valley? And what do we have to put some kind of guardrails on this, or what can we do about this? And our legislation can't keep up because the people that are running our government, they don't know what the heck they're talking about when they talk about
they're
this
just
stuff.
not exposed to it. They're not like we use AI all the time here, in my work, but they're not. If you're not exposed to it, you're not seeing the trajectory. I mean, we were talking before the show about just our interest in the work of Ray Kurzweil, who was also very much influential to me. He talks about the exponential growth of technology and how in 2029, we're going to get to that point where technology sort of surpasses us as people, and that maybe people are going to start merging with the technology. And there's so much there. And going back to when I was younger and the genesis of this story, I was lucky. There was a documentary directed by Barry Ptolemy called Transcendent Man, which was about Ray. And when Barry couldn't fly out from LA to work on it, my team, so I got to produce the local crew, and so for years we would follow Ray around his house, events, talking. And so I was a young 20-year-old with this idea in my head, and so learning about the singularity and all his predictions. And back then, in 2008, 2007, 2009, it was kind of like controversial. But now that we're living in this world of AI, a couple years from now, can you imagine what technology will be like just from the last 2 years, what's happened? So, so much of that is in the world of this novel and this story.
Yeah, so for those of you that might not know who Ray Kurzweil is a younger picture of him.
There he is.
He wrote the book Age of Spiritual Machines and several other books about how technology was exponentially growing and what was going to happen. And he had this kind of theory about the this hockey stick of progress, where all of a sudden things would be happening so fast that we couldn't even keep up with it. And one of the things that he said also was he thought, what would happen if computers were running the world and they suddenly decided that we needed more paper clips and they turned everything into paper clips. And so that was called the singularity, was this hockey stick where it just goes straight up and we just can't even control it. So now we're like this. At the time when the books came out, it was fantastical sounding, because he was talking about, how computer chips were exponentially growing and the size of our storage space and things like that. Very specific things. But it was kind of hard for us to grasp that we were going to go into this thing. But now it's very, very real.
It's real. And I think his book that's coming out in a couple of years is The Singularity is Here, right?
It's here.
It's here. He was right. I mean,
have you seen him recently, or have you talked to him recently?
Yeah, he was here. It was a week or two ago. He's been coming to my studio to do podcasts and talks and presentations. Really? So we got to reconnect after 10 years or so. And actually, this is an exclusive to you, because we've not told anyone this. So this is a Lunch Therapy exclusive. Okay. So right now, what you see right now is just the advanced copy of the book. This is not the official final. But Ray is actually was so kind enough to give a quote on the book. And so I could actually give you the remarks he said about, hopefully it's not I'm selling too much here.
I'd love to hear it.
Let me see if I can get the review.
Yeah.
So my folks are going to put it up in front of me in a second. So what did he say? Okay, so he said, and this is going to go on the cover of the book. So he said, Don Schechter's Ascendants is a provocative thought experiment on the future of consciousness and our quest to transcend biological mortality. It underscores the moral imperative to guide our technological ingenuity toward the common good, reminding us that the fate of humanity and the universe itself is in our hands. And that's from Ray Kurzweil, inventor, author, and futurist. And it's going on the cover, and it's so awesome. I was so happy and so thrilled when he was willing to do that and put his stamp of approval on this book.
That really means a lot. That really means a lot, I'm sure. I know my wife and I made a documentary film, and we really wanted to make a Michael Moore style film. And so then when we went to Michael Moore's film festival and he put his stamp of approval on it, we were like, we accomplished what we set out to do. I mean, whatever happens after this is just
it makes
gravy.
You feel it's so good. It's validating, especially this is my first novel. So you need those things to set you apart. And I got the email, the blurb did a little. I know we've got a dance number later, so my dancing happened privately over there. And I've gotten and I just got to shout out two people who are also their quotes are going to be on the back of the book. One is Erin McDonald, who's the science advisor for Star Trek.
Oh my gosh.
So she was great, and so you guys can see that. And Derek Tyler Attico, who's an author, also a Star Trek author, who gave a great quote. So I'm excited for everyone to read it, because so far the early reviews have been really awesome, and so that's been so great to read and see.
I love how you write characters too. Did you ever act or do anything that gave you this idea that, be able to step into
with this face, this hair, head, this voice?
You could be a character actor.
Can I be honest? I wanted to be an actor when I was younger, when I was a kid. Yeah. And then my voice never got deep enough, and then my body never got thin enough, and my hair just kept going the wrong way.
Who cares about that stuff?
So no, but yes, am I a diva at heart? Sure, absolutely.
Well, you seem to be able to write the voices of different characters. A lot of times people, when they write a book that haven't been involved in things like this, they write characters that all talk the same. And you actually write characters that have a point of view, and it's, like I was saying, very character driven. So I applaud you in that. Yeah.
It's to be honest, part of it, maybe the right answer is that, that comes from my the film background and working on some scripts and producing and directing and working with actors.
Yeah.
That's half of it. But the other half, to be honest, is it's a lot of work. I know through this book and I had this experience early on when working on the short films, is that people talk the same. And so while working on this book, I'm like, people don't talk the same. It's not the same. They don't structure the words together. They don't think the same.
Yeah.
It's like, the extreme is who's the Yoda, right? Who's talking like Yoda? So there's no Yoda in my book, but you know, so it takes work to like, it takes passes. So you work on a novel, you're not just writing it and that's it. It takes a team to edit it and give you feedback and give you comments and say, what are you doing?
There are some people that say writing is rewriting.
It's just rewriting and re-editing, and that's what takes the years. I mean, I could have just said, well, now I could have said, hey, you know, take this script and make a novel of it. There, the end, and maybe some people do that with, you know, AI now, but that's not it. The story and even the science, to the last second before I handed it off to Girl Friday, who's publishing it, you know, I made some massive changes the last second because it took me years to like so a light bulb went off and like, wait, the technology, wait, this one thing, yes, okay, all this stuff and choices that I was like punting on for years, it clarified and then handed it off. So, but it takes a lot of work and a lot of re-editing and you need other people, you need a team of people to really take a look at what you've done to get to that point.
Kamala says, are you going on a book tour?
I would love to. This is, honestly, this is day one of
starting.
Talking to folks
This is the
right
beginning
now.
of the book
This
tour.
is the beginning. So, TBD, I know I've got a great team helping me, so you see there's demand, so let's talk later. So we'll see. I'm not going on a book tour, but I will be in LA next week. I produced a thriller called The Arborist, written and directed by Andrew Mudge. So that's coming out soon. That's going to be out February 6th on streaming platforms. TBD about a limited theatrical run, but The Arborist is coming out. So I'm going to be out there. There's a private screening with the distributor.
I want to hear about The Arborist too. One question here. How did you get your publisher?
Oh, I don't want to give away too many secrets. The publishing side of things is very challenging. And so one of the reasons why the book takes so long is that once you're done, if you want to get a publisher, either a traditional publisher, which is very hard, or a hybrid publisher, you need to have 18 months of time to just sit and wait. So I know there's a lot of indie authors out there. They write a book. They want someone to read it. They want representation. You send query letter after query letter after query letter. And I forgot what the stat was, but someone told me something like, oh, you'll be lucky if you hear back from 20% of the people or something. So we were lucky that we heard back from 80% of the people, but 79% were like, no thanks, good idea, but no thanks. And then what happened too on that first run of querying is that as we're getting these responses in, sometimes people gave a little bit of feedback and then it's like, you know what, let's take another look at this book. Because what's really challenging, especially with sci-fi books, is that when you're querying, which is the process of writing a letter to a publisher and saying, you know, are you interested in my story? You have to sell them, give them a pitch. But then they might only read 3 pages, 10 pages, a chapter or two at most. If you're lucky, they'll read that. Or the first 3 chapters if you're really lucky. And, you know, that's where we found over the last few years, I had to keep refining the opening to find that thing that might attract a publisher and all that.
You got to grab them right in the beginning. It's true with television
right
too these days, right?
You got to be lucky. It's who you know, and it's time, and it's money, and it's effort, and it's luck. And so there's no, I would never give advice on how to get a publisher or a movie deal or a TV show from anyone. It's just this thing that's, it can happen, but most of the time it doesn't happen. It's the truth in the media, but we still do it, right? We still act, we still tell jokes, we still write books and create media.
That's right, we do it.
Try.
Todd Lee says Joel Sans Bangs would be perfect for your movie. That's great. Thanks for plugging for me. And he says, oh wow, what a drag.
What a drag. But this is what being creative is. It's just putting stuff out there, you know, and then marketing yourself. That's what I think a lot of like my students don't realize. They think they're going to have a great film or idea and someone's going to just snatch them up and do it. It happens. It's very rare. There's a lot of self-promotion that goes on.
I always see people come into Hollywood that were like on vacation and they're like dressed to the nines, like walking around on Hollywood Boulevard because they think that they're going to get discovered by somebody. You know what I mean?
Maybe that's me next week, actually.
Maybe that's you. That'll be great. Oh my God. Okay, let's see. I want to hear a little bit more about how you structure something like this. Do you use, like before you start writing, do you use note cards or anything like that?
I should have. That's why I did this wrong. Should have outlined the whole thing.
My note cards are a feature film, and then I write Then I do a complete short film. That's one note card.
Do laundry, figure out food. No, that's what you should do, and that's what I didn't do. And part of that I'm going to blame on my music background. And there are people I went to grad school for music composition and theory. I was also gigging as a conductor back then.
As a conductor.
I didn't know if I was going to do. Yeah, just like a little bit when I was in school. But like I was always bouncing between music and film. I wasn't sure which way I wanted to go. But the point is that when I was writing music, I'm the kind of person that just wants to see where I didn't plan things out. You always have to have some restriction when you create art.
If you have to have some restriction. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
How do you
need
mean?
to have. Well, if you're just saying like I'm going to write anything I want.
Yeah, that's a problem.
It's a problem.
Yeah.
So you need two things. You need to say, I want to do X. I want to write music that has 20 instruments or 5 instruments, or I want to do it where I only use, these chords or these sounds or whatever it is. Like you got to give yourself some sort of guardrails for it.
Yeah.
And then you have to have the manufactured need to go and make that. That's something that always stuck with from one of my professors back in the day.
Yeah.
Was he would always say, you have to have manufactured need to go and create art. But I would write music, I'd have some sort of guardrails so I knew the ballpark of what I was going to do or what the emotion was or what the story of the music was. But for me, I enjoyed it more when I started at the beginning and I went until I felt like I was done. If I knew exactly where I wanted to end and I was working in the middle, it felt too technical for me.
Yeah.
And I wanted to kind of like go on that ride. So unfortunately for me, I treated the story a little bit of that. So that added a couple years to the story.
Yeah, I bet. Kind of like you were watching the movie yourself, watching it. And like, I wonder
Watching
what's
the
going to
movie,
happen.
What's going to happen next? And I'll figure out that later. And let's keep going and then come back and come back.
Oh my God.
So
did you write
I'm
some
obviously-
rules at least? Did you say like, these are the rules of this world? Do you ever do that?
Well, that was basically the first year or so, or year or two, was like, let's research the science. How could this plausibly, this technology plausibly go forward in the next 30, 40 years? And it's 2060 in the book, but 15 years ago was 2040, which seemed like the distant future, and now I don't know.
Yeah.
So I gave myself some of the technological and societal rules, but not so much about where it was necessarily going at that time. And so because of that, I went on this ride for years working on the story and getting it done. But then again, going back to its revision, re-editing, redoing. That's how my first draft of this novel, I think, was like 140,000 words, which is a crazy amount for a first book for someone. You're established, people want it, they'll read that, but every publisher and consultant I talked to was like, 80,000, go, just cut it down. So that was a byproduct of just like riffing for a while. So it took a lot of editing, but for me personally, I enjoyed, watching as creating, which I think is a good kind of analogy there.
Watching as creating, I like that.
Yeah.
Todd says, "Is this your only project, or do you have others?" That's a good question, Todd, because we have a trailer from a movie that you produced.
Yeah. So right now the book is my main focus for when it's coming out. I started the second one in this series, so that is in the early stages. I do know where that's going. I do have that mapped out. I do. Unlike the
He
first
knows what
one,
he's doing,
I got it
people. He
now.
knows what he's
So,
doing.
This is not a George R. R. Martin thing. I could, if this goes well, I'll just bang it out, and you've got a second book in the series ready to go. And the third one, I do have another project. I can't say too much. That's in the back of my brain for a number of years. So that's going on. But this is the one that's out right now. And then, the Arborist. You want to play the trailer?
Let's do it. Let's play the trailer. Yeah, let's do it.
That's a beautiful property you got. Been here a long time?
All my life, plus whatever's left of it.
Well, if you want to brief me on the job, we can start right away.
What are those things?
Trees are all marked. Everything that's marked gets destroyed.
Destroyed.
There's a tractor and a splitter in the garage. Grind the stumps out.
How many people live in that mansion, you think?
Just him.
Just the old guy by himself?
What is that place?
Happier days.
The tree is dying.
What happened?
It became susceptible to fungus. At this point, it's basically killing itself.
Feel the weight. Feel the longing. When we share stories of our loss, we come to terms with our grief. We realize we're not alone.
What's out there?
It's too dark.
Wyatt. Help me.
I couldn't see.
The book says, yet he does not leave the guilty unpunished. He punishes the children and their children for the sin of the parents to the third and fourth generation.
Perhaps he's not telling the truth.
Wyatt doesn't lie. Wyatt!
Children are not supposed to die before their parents.
Where's my son?
Get out!
The world moves on, but for us,
Rachel! Rachel!
time is frozen in its tracks.
Whoa, I am scared. I'm not caught chopping down any trees, I'll tell you, anytime soon. Tell us about your involvement in this and how this came about.
Yes, so it's interesting because it wasn't my baby. It was written, directed by Andrew Budge, who's a local to Boston here filmmaker. And talk about long process making an independent film. You know, is a long process too. I mean, we shot this also during COVID era. I think it was 21. It came to me where a friend in common with Andrew sent me the script and said, "Am I interested in, you know, coming on as an EP or something, or do I know any financiers, things like that?" Because it was all going to be independently made. And I read the script and I loved it. It was such a great script. And I said, "How can I get involved?" So, also a long story, but I started out as an EP on the film, an executive producer on the film, and a creative consultant. I started working with the director a little bit on the casting, and then really, and then came on board as sort of one of the full-time producers, really on the post side of things. We did film this in Concord, Mass. It's the same estate where Little Women was shot.
Really?
Yeah, and it's a cool story where, you know, a connection of Andrew's bought that or owned that property, and they were going to tear it down. And he actually wrote during COVID, like he was like in their pool, like in the woods, this amazing location, and he wrote the film for that property.
Wow.
And so what we were able to do is we were able to basically do anything we wanted to this huge estate.
Oh, because they were going to tear it down.
Because they were going to tear it down, and he wrote that into the film as well.
Wow.
And he wanted to make this like really creepy, really intimate film that's about this like grief-stricken, you know, this mom, this arborist, who, you know, she and her son go to this estate where there's this caretaker, and there's like just it's a haunting, it's a ghost story. You know, there's been a terrible tragedy that happened there. And so it's not like a scary horror film that like blood and guts and saw and things like that. It's emotional, it's psychological thriller. It's a very cool film. So I hope people get to see it.
Oh, I can't wait to see it. It looks good. Now, you talk about suspense in storytelling. This is in your TED Talk. You talk about the amount of suspense that you can get away with before people lose interest. Can you tell something a little bit about that? You know what I mean? Because I found that with like some series like Lost, where I was like, didn't know what was going on for such a long period of time that I started to get fatigued by it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fatigue.
So you're gonna get me in trouble, because this is another book that I've had in my head that I want to write one of these days.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get in trouble here. So what can I tell you? So I have a lot of strong feelings about this. For the last, I don't know, 10 years, I've been giving a lecture in my courses about J.J. Abrams, because he gave a TED Talk years ago about the mystery box. You know, how, you know, you want what's in this box. It's a surprise, and you don't want to show people what's in the box. You want them to be excited and have these questions.
Yeah.
And part of what I talk about, how mystery is the beginning of a story, but it can't just be the story.
Yeah.
Like in Lost, what's the mystery? Okay, they landed on this island, weird stuff's going on. Okay, that's a mystery. Now there's a smoke monster. Maybe I'm dating myself here. You know, now there's these other people. Now there's this ticking time
polar
bomb
bear
thing. Now there's a bear. Like, what does this all mean? And so that show and other, you know, not to pick on J.J. Abrams too much, because he's a great craftsman. I just want to say great craftsman, you know. But that style of storytelling can get you tired, where it's just like mystery, 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 mystery. with no kind of.
I get angry. I'm almost
Where's
like,
the
do you
beef?
know what's in the box? Because if
They
you
don't
don't know
know. They
what's in
don't
the
know.
box. I met a writer one at a party on Lost, and he said that he had like gone on to another show, and he was like, he said, yeah, we don't know what's going on.
It's like that's no way. That's no way.
We're
So,
just like the audience. We don't know.
so there's plenty of mystery and suspense in this story, and but you have to know where it's going. And so that is one thing where I did, as much as I said earlier, I had no plan. I did know where it was going roughly. I didn't have all the beats planned out.
Yeah.
But when you're setting up the mystery, you got to know where it's going, and then you got to check yourself when you get to the end. Does it make sense, right?
Yeah.
So like with the whole mystery box thing, it's the beginning of storytelling. It's not the end. If you watch my TED Talk, I kind of go into it more, but it's really about the storytelling that I think is most effective is when I have this graph where, when the protagonist, when the characters, it's a balance between an external threat and an internal threat. Like there's an asteroid coming to kill Earth, but also that character has issues with their child.
Yeah.
In the process of like saving the Earth, they've reconciled with their child. Like when fixing one problem solves the issue with the other, that's sort of a meaningful story, if that makes sense. So that's what you have to think about. You can't just be surprise, 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 surprise. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't be surprised. You have to it has to pay off. Because
It
otherwise
has to pay off. It has to make sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's a question from MT Kleinberg. What part of the book do you think we'll be most excited for? Well, that's an interesting question. Now, don't give away anything.
I think it depends on who you are and what you're going for. There's a lot for different people. There's people who like the thriller. There are people who like the corrupt institutions. And there's people who are going to root for like the rebellious teenager who becomes a resistance leader kind of thing. So I personally don't have a favorite part of the book. I'm curious what other people will say, and so I don't want to sort of prejudge what it will be. But I think people will enjoy the ride, and that with the early sort of reviews I've had so far, it's been really a big relief to people say, wow, it went fast, it was a great read. I can't wait to see what happens next. And for me, it's when you hear that, like, okay, you understand this world, you understand there's more to the story, and you want to see what happens next. So for me, I think it's just the ride of the entire story.
I love that. I also love the premise of sort of the haves and the have-nots, which is sort of seems to be like something that's playing out in our society right now as well.
It is, and who controls that? It's not just like these people, like in the book, there are people who, science has proven there's an afterlife of some sort for them and not. Well, who decides that? What structures control that? Is it real? Is it not real? How does society
That's the thing
change
too.
and
Is
evolve?
it have they found the secret to what happens after death, or are they just saying they have?
Joel, you got to keep reading the book. I'm not
I
going to tell you.
can't wait. I can't wait to find out because it's so. And then all the religious people come together because they don't maybe have a purpose with a lot of people anymore.
Yeah, so like that's how the book. Early in the book, you see a bunch of religious leaders come together because there's so few left. Because look, you can go into the Institute's viewing rooms and people can basically tap into the experience of people who are dying, and they see, not only do they see what happens next, but they feel it, and it's so true that that's all they know. It's 100% true. How do you combat belief in something you can't see versus this like visceral feeling of knowing it's true because you've experienced it?
Which is really also something that's very pertinent to society today, because we're seeing all these deep fakes and things, and we're having these emotional feelings about things, and then all of a sudden realizing that's not real.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah.
It's
even just like on a lighter side, just like watching, if you watch like TikTok, there's trailers, and how many times have I fallen for, oh, this is a trailer for this movie that I thought the trailer was dropping tomorrow, but this is the AI fake version of it. So, that goes back to my whole thing where like, if you can't trust what you see and what it was being made, what can you trust?
Yeah. Are you feeling positive about the way society is going right now with artificial intelligence?
I'm one of those people, I absolutely love it. I think if we get the right people in charge, there are ways that they could put guardrails on protecting society and things like that. I mean, obviously, government, no matter who's in charge, is going to be slow to respond to the latest thing. They're always responding or pining for 50 years ago, right?
Yeah.
I do think we're better off Obviously, there's dangers, but the fact that we're communicating now across the whole country,
It's incredible.
and we're talking to all these people.
Yeah.
Like years ago, very few people knew about Zoom before COVID. Like
Yeah.
we were on Zoom here using it before it, and then everyone's like, "How do I use Zoom?" when COVID hit. And like now, it's like, of course, and like we can do all this, and we can connect with other people and talk to other people. So I think technology in general is great for that.
Mm-hmm.
I think, obviously it's a big problem in the media industry with AI taking away people's jobs. I think, we know even like audio engineers who are amazing at what they do, who are like, AI is coming for all this work I used to do for sound design and just technicians. And they're like,
writing
I'm gonna go do
songs
something
even.
else.
It's
They're
writing
writing
songs.
songs.
Yeah.
And the stories that they tell, that AI can tell, are interesting. Now, there's whole ethical part of, are they stealing it from something else? That's interesting.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's like it sounds ridiculous, but I think of AI like the next calculator. It's a very important tool.
Yeah. Yeah. Very.
But we have to be
tool.
careful.
Yeah, but of course,
that might kill us all. I mean,
when we were growing up, our calculator was like a Texas Instruments thing, and it was like innovation was being able to spell boobs on it, or something like that.
we used to play. Sorry, I should say this. We used to play like drug wars in New York City, where it was horrible, games and stuff. But so like this calculator can like rise up and enslave all of humanity. So it's a little bit different.
It's a little bit different. Kamala says, "How does Ray Kurzweil feel about the present situation with AI? Have you checked in with him?"
It's a good question. Yeah, I wouldn't want to speak for him at all about this. I think he's generic. He gets around. I think he's generic. Sorry, not generically. He's generally optimistic about it, right?
Yes.
He like a lot of us want to live forever, right? Like he wants to recreate. I think a lot of us would want to recreate ourselves in some sort of digital form for some sort of immortality. So I can't speak to him exactly where he feels, but my understanding, hearing other people's interpretations of him, so I don't want to get too cross clap, is that he's generally optimistic. I'm the kind of person, if there's a new technology, I want it. Like I'm one of the 12 people who bought the Vision Pro.
I am like that too. I am like that too. I'm always on the bleeding edge of everything. But I enjoy it, I really enjoy it. And is he still taking all those vitamins and things, trying to live to be he said, because in his book, he said, there might be a point where we get to, if you can live long enough, that you could live to be 5,000 years old.
Yeah. And I believe him. Or I think for me, it's some representation, right? Like avatars, like chatbots, things like that. If we can, have a chatbot be our sales tool that we have here, or, where we put in our sales playbook and talk to potential clients, like, why not feed like someone like him who has all these talks and books and articles written, you feed that into the machine, you have a pretty good representation of that person in digital form. It's not that person's whatever essence living on.
Like even in ChatGPT, you can be like, write this like I would say it. And then it kind of does.
Exactly.
If it kind of, because it starts to know how you talk, especially if you have like a show like this or something like that. It starts to
absolutely
to emulate.
But I will tell you, we did back when we worked on the documentary years ago. We did film a lot of a lot of supplement taking, and so as I've gotten older, like I went from nothing back then, like wow, he takes a lot of supplements. Now that I'm in my 40s, I take a lot of supplements too, and every morning I'm like, next. So I feel closer to him from that.
I do too. He inspired me as well. What an amazing person. Well, we're at the end of the show, unfortunately. We've gotten to our hour. This has been so exciting. I'm glad you enjoyed it. We really enjoy having you on the show, and we look forward to reading the book and seeing the movie and just going down this journey with you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so thanks so much. Check out the book. There's a link in the show notes of how you can get the book.
Yeah, I was going to say, the pre-order for the physical copy will be out very soon in a few weeks. It's ascendantsbook.com. And then you can follow me on my socials. I've got an unhinged TikTok account at Don Schechter, 2 H's. Instagram, there's a Facebook page, Don A. Schechter, but everything else is Don Schechter. So go ahead and follow.
Okay, cool. So we'll put those in the show notes as well. Let me just do one thing here. Let's take a look at, let's see, the website. Ascendantsbook.com. And then, check that out. We got the book. And wow, it's dance break time. We've gotten to our dance break. So get ready to dance. I've got we're just going to show this briefly because I I don't know if I'm allowed to show this, but it's just so incredible. It's these two harpists and these two drummers playing Paint It Black by the Rolling Stones. Thanks so much for being on the show. This has been just a gift. We really appreciate it, and we'll dance it out now.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Here they are. It's the Harp Twins and the Wolfgang Twins singing or playing Paint It Black. It's amazing, these people.
It's awesome. I worked on a doc with the Rolling Stones too once, so this is like perfect for me.
Really? Wow.
4 flicks, yeah. So it's perfect. Perfect choice.
Did you ever meet them?
Yeah.
Yeah? Wow. Were they cool?
They were who you think they are.
They're like the coolest people ever. Except for these people. These people might be the coolest people ever.
They're definitely cooler than me. Absolutely.
All right, everybody. Thanks for being here today. Send this out to all your friends. Chuck Goldsmith's coming in here, really great. They look like they're in the new Game of Thrones show. Yeah, they do, don't they? Deep. Kamala wants to know where you'll be staying in LA.
Glendale.
Glendale. All right, Glendale.
That's all I know.
Okay. Beautiful Glendale, California. All right, we'll see you all later. This has been Lunch Therapy.